Now we move on to the end of our conference. 2 days of uh, very, very, I would say, urgent, important, succinct, all those wonderful words of information in keeping with our theme has been shared. And I call upon our ICAC President, David Simpson, to bring this conference to a close. And of course, I would have put in the WUVA app chat that David is very much open to answering any questions that you may have. So,
Thank you very much, Renata, for being our more than able host for our 39th annual conference. It falls to me as usual to wrap up our conference. Well, I shouldn't say as usual and customary for our president more often than not, or our conference host, um, to just share a few closing thoughts. And of course, in this scenario as well, to bring our vote of thanks. As mentioned yesterday morning in our opening session, this is the second time we have hosted the ICAC conference on a virtual platform. And of course, this has been occasioned by the ongoing pandemic. And when it was at its highest intensity during 2020, when we were due to be in Miami, and last year when we were due to be in the Eastern Caribbean. As I mentioned yesterday, the board has considered the conference rotation and we're making plans for a return to face-to-face conferences, and I will come to that in a few seconds. Before I address the conference, however, I wanted to just recognize some awards that were made in Jamaica to some of our members and past board members as well. Last year, October, in Jamaica's National Honors and Awards ceremony, two of our past directors and past treasurers were given national awards for their contribution to the accounting profession and development of Jamaica as a whole. Those persons, former treasurer Dr. Archibald Campbell and another member of the ICAJ, Mr. Warren McDonald, were conferred the Order of Distinction in the rank of the Commander by the Government of Jamaica. Additionally, at its annual awards, sorry, the ICAJ, which has been recognizing distinguished members of the Institute since 2005, also recognized two outstanding members. And again, Dr. Archibald Campbell was one of the nominees, along with Ms. Prunella Vassell. Both of them served as ICAC directors for Jamaica in the past, and both of them also served as treasurers for the ICAC. So I just wanted on this occasion to congratulate them on their national awards and also being highlighted as distinguished members and receiving their awards from the ICAJ. As you know, ICAC is domiciled in Jamaica legally and corporately, even though we are a very pan-Caribbean and remote organization. Our office manager sits in Jamaica, and of course, our executive members are scattered across the region. Conference 2023. Many people are rather excited and have been monitoring the Hoover chat and the community forum from yesterday. And I have seen the feedback in terms of the virtual experience. I have seen those who are anxious for us to return to in-person events. And as I said yesterday, the board did discuss this and how the rotation should be adjusted going forward after these virtual events. And I did commit to you that the Institute was definitely seeking to return to its in-person events by 2024. I have been advised this afternoon, following the board meeting, that the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Eastern Caribbean has indeed now agreed to go ahead and host the conference as an in-person event next year, June. They were scheduled to host in 2021 and would have been already in the early or more advanced stages of planning their content and their event. So I have been advised by the president of the EC Institute, who is also our vice president of the ICAC, that subsequent consultations following our board meeting this week, they have agreed to go ahead and host the 2023 version of our conference in the EC. And she has further confirmed that Grenada will be the location where the Eastern Caribbean Institute will host next year's event. More details will, of course, follow this conference because, as is customary, we would not have had enough time to prepare a promotional presentation, but that will be done at a later date and probably using technology as well so that we can keep you delegates and others informed of the plans for next year. So that should be good news for some of you who have even contacted me directly and asking and begging when can we gather again. So thanks to the East Caribbean Institute for confirming that they will go ahead and host next year, and plans will then continue to be made for that event. In terms of thanks for this year's event, this year has been a challenging year for many of us, myself included, and it has been quite a busy year. But I want to start off by commending and thanking our sponsors for supporting the event, our virtual event, 39th Annual Conference, our platinum sponsor, EY, Building a Better Working World, and our silver sponsor, CPA Canada. We also had a special sponsor in the Barbados International Business Association, or BIBA, who also came on board to support our activities. To our various speakers from day one and day two, I want to commend you for your presentations. Thank you for your willingness to support our conference and for working with our event coordinator, Renata, in pulling together our agenda and your participation. You have given many insights on the areas that have been highlighted on our agenda. And from the feedback thus far that I have received from some delegates, past presidents, directors, and others, your delivery was well appreciated, and the points and insights and knowledge transferred has been deeply appreciated. To you, the delegates, as I said yesterday, I know there were some challenges in terms of your registration process. I have learned through networking with a few persons today that apparently Scotiabank credit cards gave the most problems. So that is some useful information that we will take forward into our future planning of all of these events, whether virtual or in person. But to you, the delegates who responded and who came out and supported our 39th annual conference, we want to thank you deeply for your commitment to the ICAC and its annual event. To the board of the ICAC and to the executive members, I thank you for your support of the event, for your support for me as president and the work that we have been doing over the past year. And I know that we will continue on all of the critical areas of our strategic plan and our operational plan that remain to be executed. And of course, I know we all look forward to being together again socially and in terms of business meetings in the near future. To our past presidents, some of who were in attendance, I know our immediate past president, Mr. Khalil Ali, was indeed attending. We had past president, Mr. Harry Ram Parmasar from Guyana. He was also in attendance, that I can confirm. And I know there were several other past presidents of our member institutes and past directors of the ICAC that were also in attendance. And I thank you all for continuing to support the work of the ICAC. Now, I must also, before I get to the last two persons I need to thank, our production team, led by Mr. Vladimir John out of Trinidad and Tobago. His company, Weber's, has done an outstanding job for us last year, and I think an even more outstanding job this year, especially from a technical point of view. There are several aspects of the technical and event production that many of you will not see or be privy to. And Vlad and his team, along with Renata, our office manager, Sophia, with some input from myself. We've even had support from our assistant director of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of ICAC, Lisa Denny Brathwaite, in the background. Lisa is somewhat of a Hoover expert, and she has happily supported our efforts last year and this year as well. But to Weber's, Vlad, Berkeley, and the team, thank you very much for all of the hard work, long hours, late nights, early mornings in putting this program together and the technical components and making sure that we came across to all of our delegates as best as we can. On that note, I also want to take a minute just to highlight our first presenter this morning, who spoke to us in Spanish, but we had an English translator. I have, in terms of my own memory, I cannot recall attending any previous ICAC conferences where we had translation services in order to translate the delivery of a speaker. But of course, it is entirely possible that it did happen before. But I think that in itself brought a different dimension to the diversity of the agenda and the speakers. And I think it came across very well. His content and the information shared, of course, were of a high quality, and the language barrier really did not pose any significant issues for us. Now, we are, as they say in Trinidad, in the back in the engine room, the people who make things happen, but we never really get to see them. And I want to start by thanking our office manager, Sophia Francis Wilson. Many of you interact with the ICAC. Many of you will see us as presidents and directors of the board and so on up front. But what many of you may not know, for the past 2 years, the ICAC Secretariat operationally has been led and driven by Sophia in the background, based in Jamaica, as I mentioned. Sophia spent a lot of time working remotely. She has visited the office on occasion, but she has essentially driven all of our initiatives from the office over the 2 years. She is now our office manager, and she has ably supported myself, the executive, the wider board. She is the one that you would have been interacting with in terms of your challenges with registration and any communications. She is the first person that you would come into contact with. I know it was a bit challenging as we got into some of the registration issues, so I just want to commend Sophia for her patience and her long hours in the past few weeks in making sure that we were able to get all registrations processed, addressing any issues, and handling all of your questions. In the midst of it, she had a medical emergency with her son, but she dealt with that and was still back on the job. So I really want to say a heartfelt thank you to her for her commitment and all of her work in relation to this conference and the ICAC over the past 2 years for sure. And finally, Miss Mohammed, that is on screen, Renata Mohammed, you know her as our ICAC 39th annual conference host, MC, and everything. But Renata has actually been working and supporting the ICAC for the last several months in a PR capacity, event coordinating capacity, and anything that uses her expertise, the ICAC has been able to leverage in the past several months. I was not aware that Renata was going to be our host and MC on both days, but I must give high commendation to Renata for the execution of this conference. Even in my 6 to 8 week absence, Renata was still driving this event, pulling together our speakers, pulling together our sponsors, and doing quite a lot of what you have seen manifest over the last 2 days. Without her, I know for sure this event would not have been the quality that it has been, or probably not even been possible based on some of the challenges that we experienced. And I want to commend her for the work done, for the agenda, for the program, for the entire conference and its execution to date as we come to a close. I have had lots of commentary and feedback on your skills as a moderator and host. So I guess you can add that and put a few more stars next to that skill set as you move forward. So once again, Renata, thank you so much for your assistance in driving this event. Now, to address a few other questions before we close, persons have been asking about access to the presentations and recordings of the sessions. Presentations have not yet been uploaded for those speakers who have allowed us to do so, but they will be added. Recordings of all of the sessions for day one have already been added to the Hoover platform. If you navigate to the agenda and choose any session, you will see links to a recording there for all day one sessions. Day 2 sessions, I believe Vlad and his team will have those available by Monday for us as well. They'll be added to Hoover. All of the recordings will remain available in Hoover for 2 months, I think we have agreed, which would be essentially to the end of August. And we will also notify you by email when the surveys are available for completion, when your CPD certificates will be available. These will be delivered by email as well to your inbox at the email address that you utilized when you registered. Um, the presentations will be uploaded, as I said, as soon as we have receipt of those. I do not believe there were any other. So Renata is sending me a few questions. When should we expect to do the survey? The surveys will be sent to you by email by close of business on Monday. Um, Let me read the question as it is stated. When should we expect to do a survey on the entire conference to ensure ICAC can continue to do what works well and improve what does not? As I said, on Monday, you will have that opportunity. And of course, the conference planning committee, the executive and the board look forward to your feedback as usual. Congratulations to ICAC on successfully hosting the annual conference. Looking forward to announcements on the hosting of the 40th annual, and they made that announcement already. And I noticed that the community topic on the next installment of the conference has once again become very lively in terms of the conference being hosted in in Grenada next year. So I think I've covered all of my closing announcements. If there are any other questions, feel free to reach out to the Institute, to Sophia, to myself. My email address would be president@icacorg.com. Sophia can be reached at admin@icacorg.com. And Renata can be reached at events@icacorg.com. Should you need to provide any additional feedback, have any questions, any queries, please feel free to reach out to us. The Hoover platform and the information, as I said, will be active for another 2 months, and then it will come to a close. And information, as much of the content, recordings, and presentations as we can transfer to our website, we will do so during that period, so that once the Hoover platform is closed off, you will have continuing access to the content from our 39th annual conference. So I believe all that is left now is for me to wish you all a great weekend. Wish you all, for those of you who engage in summer-related travel or holiday, please do enjoy your travel or whatever activities you undertake. And of course, we look forward to welcoming you in Grenada next year for the 40th ICAC Caribbean Conference, which in some ways will be historic, which I will speak to next year when we are on location. But 40 is a good number, and there are other momentous things that will be scheduled to occur next year as well, which we will all join in celebrating. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sponsors, speakers, the board, and everyone who has made this event possible this year. And we look forward to seeing you in Grenada next year. Thank you.